The alien queen's palace stood like a crown of silver atop the jagged cliffs of their homeworld. Its spires reached into the swirling violet sky, reflecting the twin suns that bathed the world in a strange, shifting light. Inside, the halls were filled with a hum of power and authority. This was a world where strength and intelligence were celebrated above all, and no one dared defy the queen without facing her wrath. She had ruled for decades, her wisdom and courage unmatched, and her daughters were the heirs to this unmatched legacy. The twins, Arya and Leora, were unlike anything else in the galaxy. They had the sharp eyes of hunters, the agile bodies of trained warriors, and minds that could outthink the most cunning of strategists. From a young age, they had been taught to fight, to negotiate, and to lead. Yet beneath their fierce exteriors, they were curious in ways that no tutor or trainer could fully control. One morning, the queen awoke to an empty room. Her daughters' beds were neatly made, but the girls themselves were gone. Panic rippled through her like a shockwave. She summoned her advisors and warriors immediately. "They cannot have left without permission," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "And no one can enter or leave the palace without detection. Something has happened." Her warriors spread out, scanning the vast palace, checking every chamber, every corridor, yet no trace of the twins was found. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. The queen's concern deepened. This was not a simple game of curiosity. Her daughters were clever, yes, but the galaxy was filled with dangers she could not ignore. Somewhere, out there, they were vulnerable. Meanwhile, far from the palace, Arya and Leora crouched in the shadow of enormous, spiraling trees that dotted the human colony's forests. The twins had always been intrigued by humans, ever since they first heard stories from passing traders. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and driven by emotion in ways that aliens rarely understood. To the twins, this made humans both fascinating and worthy of study. They had planned their excursion carefully. The storm had helped cover their tracks, and the twins moved silently through the undergrowth, their senses alert to every sound. The human colony below was bustling in ways that surprised them. Children ran freely, animals roamed openly, and humans worked with tools and machines that seemed primitive yet effective. Arya and Leora whispered to each other in their melodic tongue, analyzing the humans' behaviors, their gestures, their interactions. The storm began to intensify. Rain fell in sheets and the wind howled through the forest like a living thing. The twins shivered, their small forms pressed close together for warmth. They had underestimated the weather and had no shelter nearby. It was then that they noticed a figure moving through the trees, a human, his form steady despite the storm. He carried a device that emitted soft light, scanning the forest. Arya raised a hand to signal Leora to stay silent. The human paused, listening, and then slowly approached, his eyes scanning the undergrowth. He moved with caution, not a hint of fear in his stance, only curiosity and careful observation. The twins hesitated. Humans were unpredictable. Some were aggressive, some were kind. This one seemed different. The rain intensified and a sudden gust of wind knocked Arya off balance. She stumbled and let out a small cry. The human froze, then slowly knelt down. "It's okay," he said softly in his language, which the twins did not fully understand. Yet there was kindness in his tone, and somehow they understood it. Leora reached out, and the human extended his hand. He did not try to capture them, did not try to harm them. He simply helped them to stand and offered his back as shelter from the pouring rain. The twins, despite their training and instincts, felt a strange sense of relief. They had not expected such care from a human. As the storm raged on, they allowed themselves to be guided to a small clearing where the wind was less fierce. Exhausted and wet, they curled up on the human's chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. It was a strange, comforting rhythm, and for the first time they felt safe without armor or weapons. The human's eyes widened slightly, but he remained calm. He looked around at the forest, then back at the tiny figures curled against him. He realized immediately that these were no ordinary creatures. Their energy, their aura, was unlike anything he had encountered before. They were young, yet their presence carried a quiet strength and intelligence. He decided to protect them, at least until the storm passed. Hours passed, and the storm began to ease. The forest was transformed, leaves glistening with rain, puddles reflecting the dim light of the twin suns. The human looked at the twins, now resting and seemingly asleep. He knew that finding shelter alone would not be enough. They were far from their home, vulnerable in this unfamiliar world. He resolved to guide them to a safer place, somewhere they could be hidden and cared for until he could understand more about them. Back at the palace, the queen had dispatched her most skilled trackers. They moved quickly through the forests and hills, using advanced sensors to scan for signs of the twins' energy. The warriors noted the sudden disappearance and immediately suspected the worst. "No one can match the girl's skill," one tracker said. "Yet something has drawn them away. Perhaps the humans." The queen's intuition was sharp. She knew the twins' curiosity might have led them into danger, but she also recognized a pattern in their disappearance. It was not reckless. It was deliberate. The twins were always drawn to knowledge and new experiences. She clenched her fist, a spark of both fear and pride in her eyes. "Then we follow them," she commanded. "But we move with care. My daughters are clever. They may have chosen their path, but they will still need guidance to return safely." Meanwhile, the human had begun moving through the forest with the twins still resting against him. He navigated by instinct, using natural landmarks and his knowledge of terrain to avoid hazards. Birds and small animals moved around him, unafraid. Sensing the calm energy of the tiny alien figures, he thought about the stories he had heard of alien royalty and realized that these girls might be more than mere children. Their aura, their intelligence, and the way they had instinctively trusted him suggested a deeper significance. As night fell, the human found a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. It was dry, safe from the elements, and provided a view of the sky. He gently laid the twins down, covering them with a cloak to keep them warm. They stirred, opening their eyes, and looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and trust. He smiled faintly, understanding their silent communication. They did not speak his language, and he did not fully understand theirs, yet the exchange was clear. They were safe with him, and he would not let anything harm them. The forest around them was alive with sounds, the call of nocturnal creatures, the whisper of the wind through the trees, and the distant rumble of waterfalls. The twins listened, fascinated. They had never experienced such a raw connection with nature in this way. It was different from the controlled environments of their palace. Here they felt small yet alive, connected to a world beyond their own. Suddenly, movement in the distance caught the human's eye. Shadows shifted, and he instinctively positioned himself between the twins and the source. His hand hovered over a small defensive device he carried, ready to act if necessary. The twins watched him carefully, noting the way he assessed danger and protected them without hesitation. They began to understand a truth they had only glimpsed from afar. Humans were capable of courage and loyalty that even alien warriors could admire. The night passed uneventfully, and dawn brought a soft light that filtered through the cave entrance. The twins stretched and explored their temporary refuge, their curiosity undimmed. They found small crystals, tiny insects, and the rushing water of the waterfall. The human observed quietly, allowing them to discover and learn at their own pace. He realized that the twins were not just children. They were intelligent, observant, and capable of understanding far more than he had first assumed. Back at the palace, the queen's trackers were closing in. Sensors indicated faint traces of energy in the forest, matching the signatures of her daughters. The warriors advanced cautiously, aware that the twins were clever and unpredictable. The queen herself watched from a distant observation point, analyzing the terrain and calculating possibilities. Her heart ached with worry, but she also felt a spark of admiration for the unknown human who had managed to find and shelter her daughters. Whoever he was, he had qualities worth noting. As part one drew to a close, the human led the twins deeper into the forest, keeping them safe while navigating the unknown landscape. The twins, once wary and cautious, now trusted him enough to rest openly and even play in small ways. Their laughter and soft chatter filled the cave and surrounding trees, echoing like a promise of friendship and understanding. Somewhere, not far away, the queen's forces were moving, unaware of the growing bond between human and alien. For the first time, the twins felt a connection that transcended worlds, a warmth that came from trust, protection, and shared courage. The human's steady presence, his willingness to care without expectation, and his quiet strength impressed them deeply. And in that moment, curled against him in the safety of the forest, Arya and Leora began to understand something extraordinary. Even across the vastness of the galaxy, bonds could form between the most. The sun rose slowly over the alien forest, spilling gold and violet light across the damp leaves. The twins, Arya and Leora, stretched and blinked at the new day, feeling the warmth of the human beside them. He had stayed awake most of the night, keeping watch, listening to the sounds of the forest and the distant rumble of the Queen's approaching forces. Though the girls were curious and brave, he knew they were still young, and the forest held dangers they could not yet perceive. The human led them carefully through narrow paths, over rocky streams and beneath enormous trees whose roots twisted like giant serpents. Each step required caution, yet the twins moved with grace, their alien agility making the journey smooth despite the obstacles. Occasionally they glanced at him, sharing silent gestures of understanding. Words were not necessary. Their trust had grown stronger and each knew the other's intentions without speaking. As they moved, the human observed the twins closely. He noticed the subtle ways they analyzed the terrain, the way their eyes followed movement in the shadows, and the small signs of instinctive strategy they employed. They were not ordinary children. They were trained, intelligent, and resourceful. Yet despite their skills, they were not hardened. They still had wonder in their eyes, and that reminded him why he was protecting them. They deserved the chance to explore safely, to learn without fear. Hours passed, and the forest gave way to a series of rolling hills. From one hilltop, they could see the human colony in the distance. Smoke rose from chimneys and small vehicles moved along dirt roads carrying goods and people to their destinations. The twins marveled at the sight. Their world was filled with technology, yes, but it was orderly and predictable. Humans, by contrast, seemed chaotic, yet there was efficiency hidden beneath the chaos. The twins whispered to each other, analyzing what they saw, and the human listened quietly, fascinated by their observations. Suddenly, movement in the distance caught the human's eye. Figures were emerging from the forest, moving with precision and purpose. The Queen's elite warriors were closing in, scanning the area with sensors designed to detect alien energy signatures. The human's heart tightened. He had hoped to keep the twins safe until the storm of pursuit passed, but now the moment of confrontation was unavoidable. He crouched behind a boulder, gesturing for the twins to stay low. "We can't outrun them forever," he murmured, "but we can outsmart them if we stay clever." The twins nodded, their faces serious but calm. They had seen their mother's warriors in action before, and they understood the challenge. Together they began to plan. Using their knowledge of terrain and the human's instincts, they created small diversions, rolling boulders, falling branches, and hidden trails that would mislead the approaching warriors. The first wave of trackers moved closer, scanning for energy signatures. They paused at each obstacle, uncertain of the twins' exact location. The human guided the girls silently, teaching them subtle techniques to conceal themselves while remaining mobile. Arya and Leora followed his lead, placing small traps and creating false trails, their laughter suppressed but excitement shining in their eyes. They had not felt such exhilaration in the palace halls. Here, they were learning not just survival, but the value of partnership and trust. As night fell again, they reached a hidden valley, a natural amphitheater surrounded by high cliffs and thick vegetation. It was safe, secluded, and perfect for a temporary refuge. The human guided the twins to a small cave within the cliffs, where they could rest while remaining hidden from the sensors above. The twins curled up close to him again, their tiny forms radiating a gentle energy that he could feel even through his own body. For the first time, the twins spoke in their own language, a melodic series of sounds and gestures. The human could not understand the words, yet he sensed the meaning, gratitude, trust, and curiosity. He smiled faintly, understanding that despite the difference in species and worlds, communication could transcend language. He had protected them, but in turn, they were teaching him about courage, perspective, and the bonds that could form between beings from different worlds. The next morning, the human and the twins explored the valley cautiously. Small streams, glowing crystals, and strange creatures filled the landscape. The twins were delighted, their senses absorbing every detail. The human watched them, noticing the way they approached each new discovery with both caution and wonder. He realized that this journey was not just about keeping them safe. It was about learning together, sharing knowledge and understanding one another's strengths. Meanwhile, the Queen had arrived near the valley. From a concealed observation point, she watched her daughter's energy signatures. She had expected resistance, fear, or panic, yet what she saw surprised her. The twins were calm, even playful, moving with grace and confidence beside a human she had never trusted. Her curiosity and concern battled within her. How had this human gained the girl's trust so completely? Was it care, courage, or something deeper? She could not yet decide. The human sensed the shift in the energy around them. He knew that the queen's presence was near, and that eventually a confrontation would occur. But he did not panic. Instead, he prepared the twins, explaining in gestures and simple words how to remain calm, how to show respect without fear, and how to communicate silently. Arya and Leora absorbed his guidance quickly. They had faced their mother's scrutiny countless times, and now they could combine that experience with the human's wisdom. Soon the queen herself appeared, descending into the valley with an aura of authority that made even the air seem to tremble. Her eyes scanned the scene, noting the twins curled up against the human, their small forms relaxed and trusting. The human stood calmly, his posture protective yet open, showing no aggression or threat. The queen's first instinct was anger. How could her daughters allow a human to care for them? Yet as she watched, she noticed something unexpected. The human's actions were deliberate, gentle, and brave. He had not forced the twins, nor had he sought to dominate them. Instead, he had earned their trust through courage, patience, and understanding. The twins sensed their mother's presence and turned to her. They did not panic or run. Instead, they stayed close to the human, their silent gestures conveying a mixture of loyalty and independence. The queen studied them, realizing that her daughters had grown, and in some ways the human had helped them grow even further. He had shown them a different kind of strength, one not based solely on power or combat, but on empathy, courage, and trust. The queen approached slowly, her footsteps measured, her eyes sharp. The human stepped slightly forward, signaling with gestures that he meant no harm. He allowed the twins to move freely, showing that he trusted them as much as they trusted him. The queen paused, her analytical mind processing the situation. She saw that the twins were safe, unharmed, and even smiling faintly, a rare expression that revealed their comfort. A long silence passed. Then, in her deep and commanding voice, the queen spoke. "Human," she said, "you have done something no one else could. You have earned the trust of my daughters, and you have kept them safe in a world that could have destroyed them." The human bowed slightly, acknowledging her words without pride. "I only did what I thought was right," he replied simply. The queen's expression softened, and for the first time, she saw humans not as unpredictable, fragile creatures, but as beings capable of extraordinary courage and loyalty. She realized that this human embodied qualities that her daughters could learn from: courage tempered by kindness, strength guided by understanding, and bravery paired with wisdom. The twins, sensing the change in their mother's attitude, moved closer to the human, then looked at the queen. Their eyes reflected excitement, trust, and a desire to explore beyond the confines of their palace. The queen studied them carefully, then nodded. "You may continue your journey," she said to the human, "but I will be watching. My daughter's curiosity is boundless, but their safety is paramount. If they are with you, they will be allowed to learn, but you will guide them wisely." The human nodded, understanding the responsibility placed upon him. He had not sought recognition or reward. He had acted out of care and courage. Now he would continue to protect, teach, and learn alongside these extraordinary beings. The twins cheered softly, their small voices carrying through the valley, and the human smiled, feeling a sense of connection he had never known before. As the sun set, painting the sky in deep purples and golds, the four figures stood together at the edge of the valley. The twins, once hidden and fearful of the unknown, now felt empowered by the human's presence and guidance. The queen, observing from a distance, knew that a bridge had formed between her world and the humans, a bridge built on trust, courage, and understanding. In the days that followed, the human guided the twins through the forests, teaching them about survival, strategy, and the wonders of a world beyond their palace. The twins shared their knowledge in return, revealing the depth of alien intelligence and insight. Together they explored, learned, and grew stronger, their bond a testament to the power of empathy, courage, and friendship across worlds. The human had proven that even a single being from another world could make a difference. He had faced the unknown with bravery, protected the vulnerable, and earned the respect